Follow along, Catholic Pilgrims, as we follow French doctor of the Church, St. Francis de Sales, through his book, Introduction to the Devout Life. Tune in as we read through this practical guide for living out the Catholic faith well. Welcome back, Catholic Pilgrims. We are still learning about how to live virtuously here in the third part of the book, but we don't have too many more readings from the third part left. I am going to start today by saying if you have sensitive ears around, this may not be the podcast for them. So just as a warning to you before we get started. If I would have read today's reading back when I was in high school, I would have considered St. Francis the biggest stick in the mud there ever was. If I would have read it in my 20s, I would have waved him off as some killjoy. Even into my early 30s, I would have thought that he was a guy who never had one bit of fun, ever, and I would have had a hard time taking him seriously. Now, though, that I have some maturity and experience under my belt, I can appreciate the point he is trying to make. He's going to talk to us today about balls and dances. He says they are lawful, but they are dangerous. Let's see why he thinks that as we turn to chapter 33 of the third part. Chapter 33. Balls and recreations which are lawful but dangerous. Balls and dances are in themselves matters of indifference, but the ordinary attendant circumstances have a tendency to evil, and consequently are perilous. They take place at night, and the darkness and obscurity add to the dangers of amusements in their own nature so susceptible of evil. Moreover, the long watching which they involve entails the loss of the following mornings, and thereby the service of God is neglected. It is surely a folly to reverse day and night, light and darkness, and follow idle vanities instead of good works. Those who go to a ball carry vanity with them, and vanity has a great tendency to excite bad passions and blamable affections. I would say to you of balls what physicians say of mushrooms. The best are but unwholesome food, and I say the best balls are but indifferent. If, however, you must eat mushrooms, let them be well prepared. If you cannot well avoid mixing in such pursuits, go in a careful, watchful spirit, with modesty, dignity, and pure intentions. Eat but little and seldom, says the physician, of this unwholesome food, for however they are cooked, they are hurtful in any quantity. Then go seldom, and beware that you do not become over fond of the amusement. Pliny says that mushrooms, being porous and spongy, easily imbibe any infection, so that if they are near a serpent, they acquire its venom. So balls and similar assemblies usually attract all that is least commendable, while envy, disputes, vexations, and imprudent attachments abound there, and find a more than usually easy access into the heart. Such idle recreations are generally dangerous, inasmuch as they dissipate the spirit of devotion, weaken our energies, cool our charity, and arouse many evil inclinations in the heart. Therefore, they should be entered upon with great caution. It is said that after eating mushrooms, you should always drink some good wine, and after mixing in such amusements, you should arouse some good and holy reflections, which may counteract any dangerous impression made on your mind by the vain pleasure you have enjoyed. Suitable reflections would be: 1. Whilst you were at this ball, there were souls in torment owing to sins committed or instigated under similar circumstances. 2. And at the same time, holy and pious men were serving God, singing his praise and contemplating his beauty. How much better was their time spent than yours? 3. Whilst you were dancing, some souls departed this life in bitter anguish, and thousands of men and women were wandering in the streets or lying on their beds of suffering, enduring the pains of fever and other diseases. They know no rest. Will you not pity them, and remember that the day will come when you must suffer as they do now, whilst others will be dancing as you have done? 4. Our blessed Lord, his mother, and the saints and angels were watching you, and surely they pitied and lamented over you, seeing your heart occupied and pleased with such unsatisfying trifles. 5. Whilst you were thus engaged, Time slips on. Death draws nigh. He mocks you and calls you to join his dance, in which the music is the groaning for past sin, and in which you will make but one step from life to death. This is the true pastime of men, since in it they pass in an instant from time to eternity, either of good or ill. God will inspire you with many similar reflections if you live in his fear. Oh, if St. Francis could see us now with our dances. Now, St. Francis talks of balls, and very few of us go to actual balls anymore. I still do occasionally with the Air Force, but they are rare for most people. The closest thing that we have is prom, which I think most of us can agree is not exactly a recreation that shines with a moral beacon. I remember my prom days, and they were cause for much temptation, so let's not pretend otherwise. Drinking goes on, sexual activity goes on, dresses are extremely immodest, vanity is on high display, and the dancing, well, let's just say if you're a chaperone, hide your eyes. Yes, even at Catholic schools. St. Francis says, quote, balls and dances are in themselves matters of indifference, but the ordinary attendant circumstances have a tendency to evil, and consequently are perilous. They take place at night, and the darkness and obscurity add to the dangers of amusements, in their own nature so susceptible of evil, unquote. But let's step away from the word balls, because most of us think of them as blasts from the past and that they don't really pertain to us anymore. Let's focus on dances or places where you go to dance. To begin with, there are innocent forms of dancing that go on. I love watching old Hollywood dancers tap dance, ballroom dance, and the like. My daughter's church in Manhattan, Kansas, it's connected to Kansas State University, has swing dancing and line dancing on certain days of the week after the 9 p.m. Mass. Priests are around and people keep their behavior clean. And I just went to a wedding this past June, and everyone had a wonderful time dancing at the reception, and there were all clean songs, and everyone danced modestly. So dancing isn't all evil, and St. Francis doesn't say so. He says it can just tend towards evil things happening. Now, I have been around my share of places where the dancing and the atmosphere is just plain bad. The spring of my junior year in college, I went with some of my girlfriends to Padre. One night, one of my friends, the wild one of the group, caught wind that there was going to be a wet t-shirt dance-off. Now, I wanted no part of it. Even as sunk in my many sins as I was, this was just too much for me. My friend, however, absolutely wanted to be in it, and so I went with her to protect her. I couldn't talk her out of it, and if she was going to do it, I knew I needed to be there to make sure someone had sober eyes on her. So we get to the club, and I'm still trying to talk her out of it. And there's already this mob of guys waiting like hungry wolves for the girls to come out. The workers for the club usher the girls who are participating into this back room and start giving them free shots to loosen them up. And one of the workers came up to me and tried to offer me a shot and get me to join. And I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, never in a million years. To which he called me a horrible name and took off looking for more girls. At this point, I became very nervous because the mob of guys was thick and I wasn't close to the stage so that I could be close to my friend. So I was just standing in the back. And the music started and the girls started coming out and many of them were just rip-roaring drunk. And they get on stage and they all start dancing. And I'm just so disgusted by this whole spectacle that I just wanted to leave, but I couldn't leave my friend, so I was just stuck there. So the girls dance and then they get voted on and many of them were completely topless. And then one by one, the ones that weren't picked start leaving the stage. As my friend left the stage, I met her at the stairs and I covered her with a towel I found. I don't even know where I found that towel. But anyway, I just wrapped it around her and made my body a shield around hers so that the guys wouldn't grab her. And then I ushered her away quickly to get away from the whole scene. Now, you may be thinking that this is rare, but let me tell you, it is not. I was the Rape Crisis Program Coordinator in Panama City from the years 2006 to 2009. And spring break was always a nightmare for me and for a lot of victims. I was so busy during that time that it was overwhelming for me and my staff. Dance clubs are hotbeds of just the worst things you can imagine. And I dealt with some of the worst things that you can imagine. And it always just killed me because I would end up at the hospital with these girls, these daughters of somebody. And it just broke my heart. It just completely broke my heart. And so I knew that when my daughters got old enough, I would tell them these things about what I had dealt with and witnessed, including my own spring break story. And I told them that each spring break that they were in college, if they went to college, that their father and I would take them somewhere great and that they could bring a friend so long as they stayed away from the popular spring break places. And it turned out to be a really good deal, and it was worth every penny to me and my husband. In our modern world, dances are even worse than what St. Francis is describing. He's concerned about the vanity that is there, the gossiping, the time wasted, the temptations for too much drink and such. We've got those things in the modern age, plus all the indecent dancing, the drugs, alcohol, fornication, and crime that comes along with it. I mean, I could tell you guys so many stories, but I won't because I don't want to make your ears bleed and I don't want you to lose all hope in humanity. So, as with all these things that St. Francis talks about in this book, he isn't saying that you can't ever dance. He isn't saying that we all need to be Puritans. And he is saying that we need to be discerning people and pay attention to where we are going, what we are doing, and how often we are doing it. So, that is all, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you back here real soon. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.